Hey guys, Tom here again from SerumPresets.com, and in this video we're going to be looking at a trance sound, and we're going to be going over making it completely from scratch with Serum. It's kind of a Pluck pad hybrid, which I'll just demonstrate for you here in the context of a track. So again, on its own, it's just this sound. So hopefully from listening to that sound, you understand what I mean by a Pluck pad hybrid. I know it sounds a little bit confusing to begin with, but we're actually going to be diving into making this sound complete from scratch. But just before we do, I'll quickly mention, as you can see here, this is Pluck 18 from my Trance preset pack for Serum. It contains 256 trance presets, specifically handcrafted by me. If you're interested in that, go ahead and go to SerumPresets.com or click the link below in the description. There's a full kind of inventory of all the presets in there, including basses, leads, pads, plucks, and effects. There's also a 5-minute audio demo on there, which should hopefully demonstrate the sounds for you as well. So again, if you're interested in that, click the link in the description below or head over to SerumPresets.com. But without further ado, let's go ahead and start making this sound completely from scratch. So we're going to click Init preset here and start off in oscillator A. So the first wavetable we're going to use in oscillator A is this DS saw and triangle wavetable. Now if I go through the wavetable position here, you can actually see there's 3 different positions, and we're going to use the first single cycle waveform. So we're not actually going to be modulating wavetable position in this sound because it is relatively simple. So the reason we're using this waveform is simply because it kind of represents a saw wave, which has that nice kind of harsh tonal quality to it, but it's also kind of rounded as well, which adds a little bit of body to the sound, which I really like. So the next thing we're going to do is increase the unison amount of oscillator A to 7 and bring down the detune just a little bit. So hopefully if you've watched any of my other tutorials, you'll know that unison essentially controls the amount of voices per oscillator that we can hear, and the reason we can hear each individual voice is because each voice is detuned from one another, as you can visually see there. Now you might wonder, why, if you want to make a sound as big as possible, why not just use as many voices as you can? Well, there's a couple of reasons for this, mainly due to CPU usage. So if you're using more voices per each oscillator, you're going to end up using a lot of CPU, which is going to really affect your system's performance, and you're going to run into CPU usage errors. But the other kind of main reason as to not to use too many voices is because what you have to understand is that just because you use more voices doesn't necessarily make a sound bigger. So the reason we can hear each individual voice and the reason that we perceive it as being a bigger sound is because we can hear each individual voice because they are slightly detuned from each other. However, if we increase the unison amount to like 16, because there's so many voices, we can't actually perceive each voice as separate, and it becomes kind of like a blurry image. And for this reason, the image starts to kind of fragment, and you can't actually hear each individual voice separately. So if we have 7, we can therefore perceive each voice as separate, and it sounds a lot bigger or wider. So hopefully that makes sense to you. And 7 is usually around the magic number. So what else we're going to do here? We're going to add oscillator B here, and we're going to pitch this up plus 1 octave above oscillator A, and again bring the unison up to about 7. The next thing we're going to do is go to envelope 1 here, and we're just going to program in here a general amplitude envelope for the sound. Now usually if we were having just a pluck sound with no pad-like elements, we'd have a really kind of sharp decay with very low sustain and a little bit of release. But because we're kind of making kind of a hybrid sound, we're going to have quite a high amount of sustain here, and we're going to bring the Pluck-like element into the sound using the filter later on. So we're also going to bring the noise oscillator in here, and we're going to use bright white noise. The reason, there's actually two main reasons here for using the noise oscillator. The first one is to fill out the frequency content of the sound a little bit. So if you're creating a sound within Serum or any other synth really, and the sounds a bit thin, or it's not really, it doesn't really have enough presence in your mix, adding a little bit of noise to the sound is a really great way to fill out the frequency content of the sound. But the other reason we're adding the noise oscillator in here is because we've got, as you'll have heard in the preview at the start of the video, it has this kind of like sweeping effect, which we'll get into in a second, but adding noise also kind of emphasizes that, which I'll show you towards the end of the video. The next thing we're going to do here is switch on the filter section, and we're actually going to use a basic moog low pass 12 dB filter. And the first thing we're going to do here is make sure the noise is being routed through the filter. And we're actually not going to route oscillator B through the filter at all. And the reason for this is because we're going to use envelope 2 here to modulate the cutoff frequency of the filter, which is going to create the Pluck-like sound. But because oscillator B is bypassing this, this is going to also add the pad-like nature to the sound, which will just follow the amplitude envelope we set in envelope 1. So just to break that down for you a bit further, oscillator A and the noise oscillator are being routed through the filter, which is going through this Pluck-like envelope on the cutoff. So we'll hear oscillator A and the noise go through a Pluck-like envelope through the filter. But because oscillator B is bypassing the filter, we're going to hear both. We're going to hear the Pluck-like sound from oscillator A and the noise oscillator, and then we're going to also hear this more sustained amplitude envelope from oscillator B, which I'll just demonstrate for you here. So there you can hear a Pluck-like element, and also this kind of more sustained sound, which is coming from oscillator B as well. What I'm going to do is actually turn the amplitude level of oscillator B right down. The reason for this is because oscillator A and the noise oscillator are being routed through the filter, they're having some of their frequency content removed, which results in a lower amplitude. So because of that, oscillator B was currently dominating the sound a little bit too much. So now if I've turned the level down, we'll have much more of a balanced sound. The Pluck at the minute is sounding a little bit too sharp as well, so I'm just going to increase the decay a little bit. And that's sounding great so far. So I'm happy with everything in this section. Now I'm going to move into the effects, and the first thing we're going to do is bring up the filter here. Now what's really great about Serum in the effects section is that you can actually use a filter in the effects chain. We're going to bring a moog low pass 12 dB filter here and just bring the cutoff right up. And then what we're going to do is use a really slow LFO here. We're going to set it to about 4 bars to actually modulate the frequency content of the sound over time, which you can hear here. So that gives that really nice sweeping effect. But what we're going to do to emphasize that even further is just give this filter a really big boost in resonance. So essentially this is boosting the frequency content around the cutoff frequency point, which is going to make the sweep even more kind of obvious. The next thing we're going to do is just add a simple hyper effect. By default, the dimension effect is off because the mix is set to 0, and we're just going to use the hyper section of this effect. We're going to bring the mix down just a little bit, and through the use of further unison and detune, this is going to make the sound even bigger. And then we're going to add a reverb effect, just because reverb just really adds a lot of character to the sound. But the reason, like currently at the minute, right, the filter is at the end of the effects chain. So what this is currently doing is actually filtering out some of the frequency content of the reverb, which we don't want. We want the reverb of the sound to reflect the whole sound. So what we're going to do is move the reverb here to the end of the effects chain, and this is just going to make sure that none of the frequency content of the reverb is being removed. Something else I did there was just increase the high cut of the reverb, just because I think there were too many high frequencies present in the reverb. It sounded a little bit harsh, so just to warm and make it a bit warmer, I just increased the high cut there, which cuts out some of those pesky high frequencies. So that pretty much covers the sound, guys. Hopefully you found this video useful. It's a really, really great sound. Again, if you are into trance or into these type of sounds, and want a collection of 256 really high quality trance presets, go ahead and check out SerumPresets.com, which is my website. You can also click the link in the description below and it will take you to that page. Even if you're not a trance producer, there's still tons of sounds that you can reverse engineer and learn from, and just loads of really great basses and leads and other sounds as well that I think you'll really find useful. So again, there's just click the link in the description, that'll take you to that page. It has a full description of everything included in the preset pack, along with a 5-minute audio demo as well. So thanks a lot for watching the video, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. If you haven't subscribed already, hit that subscribe button. It really helps support me, and you'll get all my latest tutorials and sounds and videos as soon as they come out. Also hit like if you like the video. That also helps really support me as well. But yeah, thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next video.